Hi everybody, this is the tutorial for week 7. We haven't got any participants today and that's not that surprising. I know it's really very busy time for everybody, so I won't take very long. I'll just do a little bit of a recording. If anyone joins in, I'll say hello to them on the way. But I just thought I'll just quickly run through another level of statistical analysis with SPSS, and that I thought that might help you. I've left this on the screen at the moment of the week 7 Moodle site. I'm not going to run through these with you. This was just an exercise if you wanted to try PictoChart, which is a really cool way of presenting infographics when you're trying to communicate statistics. It can be quite useful. So that was just an exercise for you to do. It's pretty easy. You just go into PictoChart. I've already got some up. I think probably I can go back to my dashboard, I think, and we can have a look at ones I had to do for an assessment. There we go. So I had to do this assessment when I was doing my teaching training as a lecturer. So here I had to show an image of how different people learn. I had to draw on different literature. So Rob Lyer here, Race, Biggs, Felder and Brent. So there's all the different people that contributed. So I was able to pop this in and then you know, add some pictures and so forth, and then I had to talk through it to qualify to be able to teach. So that's clearly a draft because it's got dodgy writing, but this was the sort of thing that we had to do, and it's kind of cool because it's a good way of doing things that are a little bit creative and different, and if you do it really well, I did this one knowing that I'd get a chance to talk it through, so it didn't have to be super explanatory, and I knew I was talking to people who already knew what I was talking about. You've got to really think about your audience. This wouldn't work to talk to you guys about the learning process, for example, unless I actually had to talk it through from beginning to end. So that's another lesson in terms of remembering who it is you're speaking to when you're thinking about your presenting your data. So if you've got any further questions on that kind of stuff, feel free to email me or join in next week's tutorial. I know the tutorial's been jumping around a bit lately. The Moodle site has a couple of weird things with its dating and times keep changing. However, we'll be back to Tuesday at 12 next week, so hopefully I might see 1 or 2 of you there. So what I thought I might do just for a few minutes is take you through a cross-tabulation analysis. I was looking at the assessment questions here. So this is assessment 3. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot of this SPS taking you through, is because they're the sort of tests that I think you might need to know. So I'm not going to do this for you, but I will try and pull out a few key things. So this case 12.2 is the case that you need to look at. This is, I find, really a very valuable. You'll be able to see all this in the variables when you download the database. But this shows you, just as a quick reference, how they've coded each one of those questions, so you know what data you actually have to work with. So in this case, up here, the size of the home, town or city, 1 is 1 million and more, 2 is 500k to 1 million, 3 is 10k to 500k, and so on and so forth. Same with this. So these are nominal categories. Remember, they're named. So 1 equals a name. And that's an ordinal category, that one, because it's in order. It has they have a relationship to one another, so they wouldn't make sense if they're in a different order, whereas the gender is just straight up nominal. So size of hometown or city is ordinal because it's in order. The gender is nominal. Marital status is nominal because they're not related to one another. It doesn't matter what order they go in. And they're not on any form of scale. Number of people in family, well, that's a strange question to ask, but that's a nominal one. You just give the number. It can work out to be on the scale if you want to. So the more kids you have, the less you choose small cars, for example, I guess. So there is a relationship you could draw from that. Okay, age category. You have 1 to 5, so this is an ordinal scale because they're in sort of groups, but they are in order. Education category, these are, that's an ordinal group too because they go in order from lower to higher qualifications. So 1 equals less than high school, 2 equals high school diploma, etc. Income category, same, it's another ordinal scale. Dwelling type is a, well, you could say that goes from one to another. That's slightly ordinal, but there's no numbers involved, so I'd actually call that nominal. Not that it matters, there's not really that much difference in how you treat that anyway. They're just categories. And these are all the categories that you can refer back to in terms of their demographics. Okay, so this is a scale. Now we're onto a scale, and this goes up to 7, so you could actually call this a ratio scale if you want to. Okay, so desirability, same deal. This goes up to 7. So this is from very, I really don't like it to I really like it. So if, say, the 4-seat all-electric model rated a 6.5 out of 7 as its mean, as its average, then you'd know that a lot of people really like it. If they all rated 6.5 out of 7, then I guess everyone would like them, but you'd probably find that, say, the 1-seat all-electric model might only be preferred, that the mean, a lot of people might think of that as being very undesirable, especially people with more than one person in their family. So they might say that 1 seat is very undesirable, so that might only get a rank of 1.5 as a mean score of 1.5. So this is why you work out mean. So you can allocate a mean to each one of those, and then you can compare those means and see. And also, of course, you can declare your confidence. Your mean isn't just your mean; it's within a range. As discussed in the lecture. Okay, lifestyle does not describe me at all, describes me perfectly, so that's 1 to 7. So that's going along a like it scale as well of how it describes you. Are you a novelist, an innovator, a trendsetter, a forerunner, mainstream, a classic? So that would have some sort of explanation associated with it, which you'd probably have a look at in the SPSS variables. Okay, favourite television show type. So this can help because you might want to think about if you want to do television advertising when the slots are that you might want to be advertising in, and it also may build a picture of the type of personality. So you might have a typical personality type that you think you might be able to fit your marketing into, and you can build profiles of major sort of types based on that. Favourite radio genre. So these are traditional types of media: television, radio, magazine and newspaper are what we consider traditional. And each one of these you can see, so 1 equals comedy, 2 equals drama, 3 equals movies, same with radio, 1 equals classic pop and rock, 2 equals country, etc. If we go down to social media, this is online blogs, content communities, social network sites, online games and virtual worlds. I don't even know what a virtual world is. It's kind of an interesting concept. So that's how many times a day do you access that? So that's an ordinal scale, 1 to 4. So you can start thinking about how many, on average, how many, for example, you could ask yourself the question, on average, how many times per day do females access these social media sites versus males? And you might find something really interesting in that. So they're the sort of questions you can ask of your sample when you're thinking about answering these questions. Okay, so these questions are the questions for your assessment. I'm not going to answer them, and I'm not going to use the database that you've been given through SPS, through the assessment that you can open in SPSS. But what I will do is show you how to do a cross-tabulation. Now, the cross-tabulation might be quite interesting. Describe the traditional media usage of respondents in the sample. Okay, so you're thinking, right, the traditional media usage, okay, so you've just got nominal things, so you can say, 50% of females like, well, no, that's probably going to be a lot lower than that. But say 10% of females have their favourite television show type is comedy. So then you can, that's how you can describe those sort of that media usage, so traditional and social media usage. So, you know, if you want to think about this analytically, it might be quite valuable to think about, okay, you can compare those. So you can describe the traditional media usage, you can describe the social media usage, and you can think about the differences between them. It depends on how much information you want to give. And remember just to keep within the word count. So answer your questions and then think about how much within the word count, how much explanation you need to give for each one of those. And I just really encourage you to remember also that there is a rubric that goes with this. So if you click on assessment 3 and you go down to the briefing notes, if you have a look here, this is the rubric, okay? So your statistical analysis, you get 6 marks for answering question 1 and you get 5 for answering 5 and 6. So that kind of indicates the sort of level of work and interpretation, whereas 2A and B, 3A and B, you get fewer marks. So you just want to think through how much effort you need to put into which bits. The structure and presentation is 2. Okay, all right, so I can just pop that away. So what I thought I might do is to compare things across a really standard kind of across categories. A really standard comparison might be a cross tabulation. I've just done a couple of them, thinking about what I might do to say to you guys. So I might just use my normal data. So this is my same old survey data that I used as an example. Now it's not the same, but in the end I'm doing the same thing that you will need to do. Okay, so if you look here in your values, I'm in variable view down the bottom. If you see that, not data view, which is all of my, each line equals a survey question, and there's about 550 of those. Okay, we're in variable view, so each line horizontally is one of the variables which is listed vertically across the top here. So this just gives all the specifications for each variable. All right, so if we have here, all right, the accommodation that people are staying in, okay? Here we go. So this is just have to double click or right click depending on what kind of computer you've got. These are the value labels, okay? So in exactly the same way as here, we have 1 equals comedy, 2 equals drama, or yeah, that's probably the best one. I have allocated a 1 here equals motel, 2 equals caravan park, 3 equals resort hotel, okay? So this is telling me something. So each one of those has a scale there, see? All right, so 1, not a scale, but a number allocated to the named category. All right, so if I want to know, okay, a cross tabulation. So when you're thinking about this assessment, you want to know something about traditional media usage of respondents in the sample, okay? So when you're thinking about that, you might want to think about how they use stuff. So you might want to think about comparing. I'm going to talk about what type of accommodation they stay in. So similar question, just different answers, all right? So I'll go up into analyse, descriptive statistics, and I'll do some cross tabulations. And for me, I find this one of the most useful things in SPSS because I can get answers quite quickly. Okay, so in this case, I've put in my rows, so I'll just show you. I can click back out of that and that. All right, so accommodation was, there we go, accommodation. It's being a bit blingy at me. Okay, in the rows, I want accommodation. I could put it in the columns if I want. It's up to me how I want to do it. And who stays in the accommodation, what region are they from, okay? Not country because there's just loads of countries, but I've classified those into regions like Asia. If you look over here, you can see region has been, 1 is Australia, 2 is Europe or whatever, 3 is the United States and so forth. So that's specified there. So I want to compare the results of these 2. Okay, so I can put that in the column. So in the rows, I've got 1, the columns, I've got another. Very straightforward. Now, I like percentages. I find them really useful. So I've ticked, this is usually unticked, but I've actually ticked, I want percentages for everything. Row, top, column, and top. Actually, I'll probably just go row because column's just a repeat. Okay, so I'll go continue. I can do like sub-layers and so forth, but we'll just keep this really straightforward for now. We could do clustered bar charts if we want to, just to keep ourselves happy, and we press OK and let the computer do all the work. And here we go. This is the crosstabs. There's my little bar chart. All right, accommodation crossed with region, cross tabulation, that says in the title. So what do I have here? All the rows come to 100%, so that shows that it's of the valid responses. All right, so, and Europe and Germany are counted differently, and the only reason we do that in our analysis is because there's more Germans than there are anyone else, so we like to know exactly what they're doing. So that's why they're not counted as Europeans, even though we know they are. Okay, so what we can see here is, now, this is sometimes a little bit hard to read. I think we can, oh, actually, I don't think I'll do that here. I usually do mine in Excel. I usually analyse mine in Excel, which you can also do. So you can just export as a RTF, output doc, okay. But I would normally actually just copy that entire thing, and I would put it in a new workbook and paste. Yep, there we go, look at that. So that all comes up just the same. Now, the reason I do that, you just want to make sure that it is actually, I'll just minimise that because that's some other statistical stuff I'm working on. The reason you want to do it like that, for me, is that I think there might be a way in SPSS, but I just use Excel a lot more easily. So that's count, that's percentage within accommodation, and that's percentage of total, okay? So motel, the percentage of people staying in motels, 12% of them are Australians. None of them are New Zealanders, strangely. We didn't have very many. In the entire sample, we only had about 7 New Zealanders, so I don't really look at the New Zealand stuff because it's not significant. I combined Australia and New Zealand together and called it Australasia. North America, within accommodation at 8% were North Americans, 8%, right? Okay, if we go down to backpackers, the most interesting one is 50% of the people who stayed in backpackers were European, and 13% were German. So if you combine German and European together, you end up with 63% of people who stayed in backpackers were European. So you can see you've got to be really careful how you use your percentages. This is within accommodation. If you wanted to change, you can actually edit. I think this is how we do it. Oh no, that's not how we do it. That's how we actually edit it while it's in there. Table properties, cell properties, table properties. We can go in. You can right-hand click and you can go in and have a look at all these things, how big it is, how wide it is, what the formats are, you know, what type of print you like, what size, all sorts of things you can do in there. That's not actually what I was trying to do to show you though. I do this all the time and I always forget which one it is. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, you can just do it again. I tend to find that it is easier just to go in and go because it automatically comes up with everything you need. If I actually think I'd like to have column ones rather than row percentages, I can do that. Press OK, and up I come with it this way. So this is percentage within region. For me, this is probably a little bit more interesting. So of the Australians, 47% of the Australians in my sample stay in a resort hotel. And where's another big statistic? So we're looking for difference. As I said before, we're looking for difference, contrast, so where no one's staying. So Latin and South Americans, there were only 20 total respondents in the Latin and South Americans. There were only 5 New Zealanders, so this is the count, yeah? 8 Scandinavians. So I tend to steer clear of looking at the analysis of those because it's not that they're not that significant, and they're not big markets in Cairns anyway, so it's not a big deal. However, there's 153 Europeans and 52 Germans, so we're looking at over 200 Europeans that we can look at, and 60% of the Europeans that stay in backpackers, and 46% of the German staying backpackers. So overall, a lot. I'm interested how many. We've got 49 UK and Irish people, and they stay also in the backpackers. But we've got a reasonable amount of people in the apartment units. So this is a sort of comparison you can do. I could talk you through that for ages, but that's the cross-tabulation. You can do that across a whole bunch of different ones. So that was just from what region that they stay in, but I could also do a cross-tabulation on, and I can do extra ones. So instead of doing one and then another, I can actually decide which ones I want to do straight up, and it'll provide me with a whole series of tables. But in this case, I'm just going to get rid of region. And so who stays in there according to age group, which is probably, or generation, that's probably even more telling. Okay, so I can do this again. This is so simple. And this is the sort of stats that you can then write about. Okay, so straight up within the generation, okay, millennials, 40% of the millennials, so I've only got 5 millennials, so that's probably not really worth looking at. Say Gen Y. What do we got? 54% of Gen Y stayed in backpackers. Now, there's no surprise whatsoever. 21% of them, interestingly, stayed in resorts and hotels. So that is interesting to me. Gen X is much more interested in both apartments and resorts than they are in anything else, 43% and 41%. The baby boomers, we've got 81 baby boomers, so still worth looking at. We've got an even spread here between resort hotels and apartment units. So Gen X and baby boomers are actually quite similar in their accommodation choices. And pre-war, the really old people, there's only 17 of them, but 52% of those people, 53% of those people actually stay in apartments and units. So you can see what I'm doing, and I won't bore you with this any longer, but you can take that data from the global motors and you can do lots and lots of crosstabs, and just be careful about what percentage you're actually reading, whether it's within the generation or within the, in this one it would be within the traditional media, or would it be within the so would it be that within that or of that group? Yep. So you just need to know what you're actually talking about. Anyway, I hope that helps. So that's crosstabs. I don't think I talked about that last week, and we might start doing some comparing means in the next one. I'm really only going to take you through the things that I think you're going to need for the assessment, because there's no point in overloading you. I'm just introducing you to the SPSS program. So then when you walk out of this subject or this unit, you can feel your way around basic statistical analysis, and that's all we're looking for. So you don't have to get too complicated. Don't overthink these things. They're relatively straightforward. What we're really after is for you to be able to run a few statistical tests. And also remember that in the textbooks, there are step-by-step instructions as well as in my lectures. Okay, well, anyway, I hope you're all doing well, and I hope all your assessments are coming along. And I look forward to seeing your assessments in a couple of weeks for assessment 2. If you've got any questions, please email me, but just remember that my time is quite limited, so I'd really like it if you can think carefully about how much you really need my help versus having a look at textbooks and the other resources provided. But I'm always happy to talk if you need me. Okay, thank you, bye.